sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
We're diving into a breaking news piece today from Newsweek, a real-time deep dive into a tornado watch that's in effect right now across 5 states in the Southeast. Talk about a sense of urgency.
Yeah.
The article titled, Tornado Watch Issued for 5 States Amid Severe Thunderstorms Warning, was published just a few hours ago, so it's hot off the press as we speak.
Wow.
Let's set the stage. Severe thunderstorms are brewing. There's a very real threat of tornadoes. And the National Weather Service, or NWS, is on high alert.
And it's crucial to understand the difference between a watch and a warning from the NWS.
Yeah.
A watch means conditions are favorable for tornadoes, so it's time to prepare. A warning, on the other hand, means a tornado has been sighted or detected on radar.
Oh.
That's when immediate action is needed.
So this watch means we need to be ready, but not necessarily panicking. The article mentions a huge swath of the Southeast being affected, right?
Yeah, you'll see from the map included in the article that the watch covers a large area. Stretching across northwestern Georgia, parts of southern Tennessee, northwestern Florida, southern Mississippi, and even portions of Alabama.
Wow.
What's interesting is that this area, often called Dixie Alley, is historically prone to tornadoes, especially during this time of year.
Dixie Alley. I've never heard that term before.
It's a region with a unique combination of geographical and climatological factors that make it particularly vulnerable to tornadoes.
Okay.
We can delve into those factors a bit later, but for now, let's focus on what this watch means for you. The article breaks down the affected counties by state, and we've included a link in the show notes so you can easily check if your area is under the watch.
It sounds like they're taking this threat very seriously.
Absolutely. The NWS doesn't issue these watches lightly.
Right.
They've determined that the atmospheric conditions are ripe for severe thunderstorms, and those storms have the potential to produce tornadoes.
Okay, so we've got the where and the when, but what about the why? What kind of atmospheric conditions are we talking about here?
Imagine warm, moist air colliding with cooler, drier air, creating instability. Then factor in wind shear, which is basically changes in wind speed and direction at different altitudes. This wind shear can start those thunderstorms spinning, and if the conditions are right, that spinning can intensify and lead to tornadoes.
So it's a delicate balance of forces that creates these powerful twisters.
Exactly. It's a fascinating interplay of atmospheric dynamics.
Yeah.
And speaking of powerful forces, the article mentions a recent tornado that hit Mississippi on Wednesday, which serves as a stark reminder of the destructive power of these storms.
The article paints a pretty vivid picture. Damaged homes, uprooted trees, debris blocking roads, even people trapped in their homes. It really brings home the reality of what these tornadoes can do.
And it highlights the importance of heeding those NWS warnings.
Yeah.
They're not just bureaucratic pronouncements.
Right.
They can literally save lives.
So given what we know now, what are your thoughts on the best ways to prepare for a potential tornado, especially given the specific challenges of this region?
One of the most important things is to have a plan and be prepared to act quickly if a warning is issued. Know where your safe location is, an interior room on the lowest floor away from windows, or ideally a basement if you have one.
Like a tornado drill.
Exactly. And just like with a fire drill, practice makes perfect. Walk through your plan with everyone in your household so that everyone knows what to do in the event of a warning.
What about supplies? What should people have on hand in case of a tornado?
Having an emergency kit is essential.
Okay.
This should include bottled water, non-perishable food, a first aid kit, flashlights and batteries, a weather radio, and any necessary medications.
Those sound like good things to have on hand for any type of emergency.
You're right. It's a good practice to have a general emergency kit ready regardless of the specific threat.
The article also mentions social media playing a role in getting the word out. What did you make of that?
It's fascinating to see how the NWS is utilizing social media to disseminate real-time information. For example, the article mentions the NWS Atlanta branch issuing a tornado warning tweet for several cities in Georgia, and the NWS Tallahassee branch tweeting about the watch for parts of Alabama, Florida, and Georgia.
It seems like social media is a much faster way to reach people than traditional media in these situations.
It certainly has the potential to reach a wider audience more quickly, which can be crucial in a rapidly evolving situation like this one.
Right.
In fact, the article mentions a tweet from the NWS Huntsville office in Alabama warning people about a tornado warning with multiple areas of rotation noted on radar, urging everyone in the area to take immediate shelter.
So it's not just about the initial watch. It's about staying up to date on the latest information and heeding any warnings that are issued.
Precisely. And that's a point worth emphasizing. If there's a tornado warning, don't wait to see or hear the tornado before seeking shelter. Tornadoes can develop quickly, and those warnings are issued for a reason.
It sounds like the NWS is really pulling out all the stops to keep people informed and safe.
They're playing a vital role in this situation.
Yeah.
providing critical information and guidance to the public.
So before we move on to discuss preparedness and resilience in more detail, can we take a moment to recap what we've learned so far about the current situation?
Of course, we've got a large portion of the Southeast under a tornado watch, stretching from northwestern Georgia to parts of Alabama. We've gone over the difference between a watch and a warning, and touched on the atmospheric conditions that can lead to tornado formation.
And we've also highlighted the real-world impacts of tornadoes.
Yes.
Using that recent Mississippi tornado as a sobering example, and stressed the importance of heeding those NWS warnings and staying informed through various channels, including social media.
Exactly. We've covered a lot of ground, but there's still much more to explore.
Let's do just that. When we return, we'll delve deeper into this idea of preparedness, what it looks like, what it entails, and how we can all play a role in building a more resilient future.
We've talked about this region being particularly susceptible to tornadoes, which raises an important question. What makes Dixie Alley so unique?
Yeah, that term really piqued my curiosity. I'm picturing bowling alleys now, but I have a feeling that's not what we're talking about here.
Definitely not. Dixie Alley refers to a region in the southeastern United States that experiences a high frequency of tornadoes, often rivaling the more famous Tornado Alley in the Great Plains.
So what sets it apart? Is it just bad luck, or is there something more to it?
It's a fascinating mix of geographical and climatological factors. The proximity to the Gulf of Mexico provides a readily available source of warm, moist air, which, as we discussed earlier, is a key ingredient for tornado formation.
So it's like the Gulf is fueling these storms.
Exactly. And then you have the Appalachian Mountains to the north and east, which can create wind patterns that further enhance instability and contribute to the formation of supercell thunderstorms, the type most likely to spawn tornadoes.
So it's like a perfect storm brewing, literally.
That's a great way to put it. And what's particularly interesting about Dixie Alley is that tornadoes here often occur at night or during the early morning hours, making them even more dangerous because people are less likely to be aware of the threat while they're sleeping.
Oh, wow. That's unsettling.
It definitely adds another layer of complexity to the preparedness equation in this region. It's not just about having a plan, it's about making sure that plan is accessible and actionable, even when you're groggy and half asleep.
So let's talk more about preparedness. We've touched on some basics, but what are some concrete steps individuals can take to be as prepared as possible for a potential tornado?
It starts with awareness. Knowing you live in a high-risk area and understanding the threat is crucial.
Right. It's hard to prepare for something you don't even know is a danger.
Absolutely. From there, it's about having a plan, as we discussed, and making sure everyone in your household knows what to do and where to go when a warning is issued.
And having that emergency kit readily available, it's one of those things that's easy to put off, but you'll be grateful for it if you ever need it.
You're so right. And it doesn't have to be complicated or expensive. Just start with the basics. Water, food, a flashlight, a first aid kit. You could build it up gradually over time.
What about those of us who don't have basements? The article mentioned that a basement is the safest place to be during a tornado. What if you live in a house or apartment without one?
That's a great question. While a basement is ideal, the most important thing is to get to the lowest level of your home and find an interior room away from windows. A closet, a bathroom, or even under a sturdy piece of furniture can provide some protection.
So it's about finding the most structurally sound space available.
Exactly. And if you live in a mobile home, it's important to have a plan to evacuate to a sturdier shelter nearby, like a community center or a neighbor's house with a basement.
That makes sense. You don't want to be caught in a mobile home during a tornado.
Absolutely not. Mobile homes are particularly vulnerable to high winds, and sheltering in place is not a safe option.
Okay, so we've talked about individual preparedness. What about communities? What can they do to build resilience against these kinds of events?
Community-level preparedness is crucial because it amplifies the individual efforts and creates a network of support and resources.
It's about moving beyond just personal responsibility and thinking about how we can work together to create a safer environment for everyone.
Precisely. One of the most impactful things communities can do is to implement strong building codes and zoning regulations.
So making sure that new structures are built to withstand high winds and are located in areas that are less prone to flooding or other hazards.
Exactly. Thinking about long-term mitigation strategies is essential.
It's about being proactive rather than reactive.
You hit the nail on the head. It's about taking steps to minimize the potential impact of these storms before they even happen. And then there's the education and awareness piece.
So making sure that residents know how to identify the signs of a tornado, what to do during a warning, and where to seek shelter.
Exactly. Public education campaigns, community drills, and even leveraging social media platforms to share information and resources can be incredibly effective.
And what about community storm spotter programs? I've heard those can be really helpful.
Absolutely. Having trained volunteers who can spot tornadoes and report them to the authorities can provide invaluable real-time information and help to extend warning lead times.
So it's like having extra eyes on the ground, complementing the technology and expertise of the NWS.
Exactly. And it's a great example of how communities can take ownership of their own safety and well-being.
It sounds like communication is key. The more information people have, the better equipped they'll be to make informed decisions and stay safe.
You're absolutely right. And that brings us to the role of government in tornado preparedness and response.
All right, let's talk about the government's role. What can they do to improve preparedness and response efforts?
Well, governments play a critical role on multiple levels. One of the most important is investing in and maintaining robust weather monitoring and forecasting systems.
So we're talking about the technology and the expertise that allows us to track these storms and predict their path.
Precisely. Things like Doppler radar networks, Meter satellites, and sophisticated computer models are essential tools for understanding and predicting tornado activity.
It seems like having the best possible information is the foundation for everything else.
You've got it. And then it's about disseminating that information effectively to the public. This includes working with local media outlets, using social media platforms, and even developing smartphone apps that can send out real-time alerts and warnings.
So leveraging all the tools at our disposal to get the word out as quickly and efficiently as possible.
Right. And governments can also play a key role in funding research and development of new technologies that can help us better understand and predict tornadoes.
So it's not just about reacting to tornadoes after they happen, it's about proactively trying to predict and prevent them.
You got it. The more we understand about tornadoes, the better equipped we'll be to protect ourselves from them. Governors can also play a vital role in providing financial and logistical support for recovery efforts after a tornado strikes.
So it's about being there for communities in the aftermath of these events, helping them to rebuild and recover.
Exactly. It's a multifaceted role that encompasses everything from monitoring and forecasting to public education and awareness to disaster relief and recovery.
It sounds like a huge undertaking, but a necessary one.
It certainly is. But it's an undertaking that requires a coordinated effort between individuals, communities, and governments at all levels.
We've talked about individual preparedness, community resilience, and the role of government. It seems like there's a lot that can be done to mitigate the impact of these powerful storms. But is it enough? Are we doing enough to prepare for the increasing frequency and intensity of tornadoes?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And unfortunately, there's no easy answer.
Why is that?
Well, one of the biggest challenges we face is simply the unpredictability of tornadoes. We've made incredible strides in our ability to predict where they're likely to form, but we can't say for certain when or where they'll touch down or how powerful they'll be.
So even with all the technology and expertise, there's still an element of chance involved.
Absolutely. And that unpredictability makes it difficult to prepare for these events. How do you prepare for something you can't fully anticipate?
It's a daunting task, to say the least. Are there other challenges we need to consider besides the inherent unpredictability of tornadoes?
Of course. Another major challenge is funding. Developing and implementing robust tornado preparedness and response programs requires significant financial resources, and those resources aren't always readily available, especially at the local level where they're often needed most.
So it's a matter of prioritizing public safety and allocating funds accordingly.
Exactly. And then there's the challenge of public awareness and education. Many people, particularly those who haven't experienced a tornado firsthand, simply aren't aware of the risks or don't take them seriously enough.
It's easy to become complacent, especially if you live in an area that hasn't been directly impacted by a tornado recently.
You're right. But as we've seen, tornadoes can strike anywhere, at any time. So it's crucial that everyone, regardless of where they live, has at least a basic understanding of tornado safety and preparedness.
So it's a matter of getting the message out there, educating the public, and changing behaviors.
Exactly. And that's no easy task. It requires a multifaceted approach that involves education, outreach, and community engagement.
It sounds like there's a real need for a coordinated effort between individuals, communities, and governments to address these challenges.
I couldn't agree more. It's a shared responsibility. We all have a role to play in building a more resilient future.
Let's take a moment to process all this and then come back to wrap up our deep dive with some final thoughts on tornado preparedness and resilience. So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. I mean, from the immediate threat of this tornado watch in the southeast to the broader conversation about preparedness and resilience. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling kind of a mix of concern and a renewed sense of purpose.
I think that's a natural reaction. I mean, tornadoes are a force to be reckoned with, but But as we've discussed, we're not helpless. There's so much we can do to mitigate the risks and build resilience.
Yeah, and that's a powerful takeaway. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the sheer power of these storms, but knowing that we can take action, that we can make a difference, it's empowering.
It is, and it all starts with awareness. The more we understand about tornadoes, how they form, what the warning signs are, and what steps we can take to stay safe, the better prepared we'll be.
Yeah, knowledge is power, as they say, and there are so many incredible resources available. For those who want to learn more, the National Weather Service website is a treasure trove of information. From basic tornado facts to detailed safety tips to real-time weather updates. And there are some amazing apps out there that can send alerts and warnings right to your phone.
And don't forget about your local emergency management agency. They often have resources tailored to your community, like maps of designated storm shelters and information about local warning systems.
So there's really no excuse for not being informed. The information is out there, it's accessible, and it could, quite literally, save your life.
Absolutely. And beyond just being informed, I think it's crucial to have these conversations with your loved ones, your family, your friends, your neighbors. Talk about what you would do in the event of a tornado. Make a plan together and practice that plan.
Right. It's about normalizing preparedness, making it a part of our everyday lives, not just something we think about when a storm is bearing down on us.
You nailed it. It's about shifting from a reactive mindset to a proactive one. And recognizing that these severe weather events are becoming more frequent and intense, we need to be ready.
We've talked a lot about the challenges we face in terms of preparedness, the unpredictability of tornadoes, funding constraints, public awareness. But what about the successes? What are some things that are being done well, and what can we learn from them?
That's a great question. And it's important to acknowledge the progress that has been made. The advancements in weather forecasting technology are remarkable. We can now predict tornadoes with much greater accuracy than ever before.
Yeah, that's got to be a huge factor in saving lives.
Absolutely. And the use of social media for real-time communication is another game changer. It allows us to get critical information out to the public quickly and efficiently.
And what about community-level initiatives? Are there any shining examples of communities that are doing a particularly good job of preparing for and responding to tornadoes?
There are some amazing examples out there. Communities that have invested in storm shelters, developed robust warning systems, and implemented comprehensive public education programs.
So it's possible to create a culture of preparedness where everyone understands the risks and knows what to do.
It is, and it's inspiring to see communities coming together to protect themselves and each other.
And it's not just about physical infrastructure and technology. It's about building social resilience, too, like fostering the sense of community and mutual support.
You're absolutely right. When people feel connected and supported, they're more likely to weather the storm, so to speak.
So what's the takeaway here? What can we do as individuals to contribute to this broader effort of building resilience?
It might sound simple, but one of the most powerful things you can do is to talk about it. Share what you've learned with your friends and family. Encourage them to be prepared. Be an advocate for preparedness in your community.
So it's about spreading awareness, starting conversations, and making preparedness a priority.
Exactly. We can all be agents of change.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, from the immediacy of this tornado watch in the Southeast to the broader conversation about preparedness and resilience, but this is just the beginning.
It is. There's always more to learn and more we can do to build a safer and more resilient future.
We encourage you to continue exploring, to keep learning, and to share what you've learned with others. Because when it comes to tornadoes, knowledge is power and preparedness is key.
And remember, we're all in this together.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Stay safe, stay informed, and stay curious.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm in.